date. It's the 17th of September, isn't it? 17th of September 1999, and we have a gentleman here who's going to give us his name.
Yeah. My name is Robert Percival Molyneux.
That's very good, Robert. And now, would you be so kind to tell us how you come to Lightning Ridge? Was you born here, or the details around it?
No, I'll tell you when. I better start from somewhere about my birth. My people come here in 1906, and my father in 1910 drew a block of in the middle of the Pilliga scrub near Weevil, and in 1910 they went here, and Dad went on, and they got caught in the flood at Burren Junction on the Sand Hill in 1910, and Mum spent 3 weeks with about 5 kids under 10 years old, and she said it's the worst time she ever seen for mosquitoes in her life. That's what she remembered most about it. And then they were down there, and I was born on that property, and all the kids were born. Most of the kids were born. I think the last 2 children were born in the hospital. The rest were all born.
Can you tell us what date you was born, Bob, please?
I was born on the 21st of June in 1913.
Continue on.
And while I can spend the first few years of my life were spent, except for going to town on odd occasions, about 18 miles away, we spent it right in the middle of the Pilliga scrub. And it wasn't much nearly all those blocks that were given in the Pilliga scrub, the people that drew them lost them because they were in the scrub, and we didn't have control of the timber, which meant we were slaves to the sawmillers and that, and they weren't good enough to run cattle. The only way we could make a bit of money out of the blocks by holding cattle, the squatters' cattle in the scrub, because we were the only one that could find our way about the scrub, and we could muster them up. And so that's how, but out of the 5 blocks that were drawn, the only people that kept them was about 2 families, was my Uncle George, that George Kincaid, Brown, he called himself, and one of the others. Everybody else went broke on them. And of course, they were the first time the government were capable of forcing them, squatters to spit up their blocks and give some of it away. And they were the first ones, and of course they give the worst bit of country away, of course, not the best. But that's how that came about. And they made a school at Cutterbriar, where there was about 3 white families, and there was a mission there, and I can remember, I can't remember, I was only about 4-year-old when they come around to see about making the school, but I can remember that my sister, Queenie, she was coming round with us in the buggy and showing the Minister for Education the people what he was trying to, and he made the remark, he said, I didn't realise there were so many Aborigines. And Dad said, well, he said, we're supposed to educate them too, aren't we? That was all about that. But for a while we were the only white children going to the school, but then a few more of the people had kids, and then they were up. But there were more dark children because all the mission kids were coming to school most of the time then. But of course that the advantage we got out there, we could nearly throw a spear as good as them in the finish and all that, you know. And that was an advantage, but it gave us, we would be one of the first lot of families with children that learned that Aborigines had just about as much brains as we had, you know. We learned that because I remember the people from up here were a lot more anti-Aborigine than we were down there because we lived among them all our life, you know. And you know what you know, I can't, they talk about brain power and all that, but I can't see the difference. Not really. Yeah. It's the way you live that means how you act, isn't it?
Yeah. So true, yeah. Bob, now, time went on, of course, for you. What brought you or your family to Lightning Ridge?
Yeah, well, we'd come from here in the first place, my people, you know, not come from here, but we went from here to the Pelican Scrub. But what brought me back was first...
Now, excuse me, before we go on, your people were here at Lightning Ridge in 1906 and went to Pelican Scrub.
Yeah.
They were mining here in 1906?
Yeah.
Whereabouts were they mining, Bob?
Up the cleared line here.
Up the cleared line?
Yeah.
They worked at the cleared line in 1906.
Yeah.
And they didn't stay very long, did they?
Well, some of them stopped there all the time. Granny stopped there for years, but what took most of us away from there was because both Grandfather Brown and my father drew blocks next door to one another. In the Pelican Scrub.
That took them away. Where did they come from?
Well, they come from Peak Hill to here, but where they originally come from was my mother's people come from Wales, and they landed somewhere in Victoria and followed the gold rushes up.
Right.
And that's how we. And they were working at the last gold field they were was Peak Hill, and there was a Peak Hill when this field broke out, and they come up here and they come up here and they stopped. But when they also left some of the uncles left here and went straight up into Queensland when the gold field broke out. So they were just miners of all sorts, you know. Yeah.
So you come from a mining background.
Yeah.
The whole family comes from a mining background. Yes. Well, that's very good. Now, we'll pick the story up where you and your family, whoever it was, came back to Lightning Ridge from the Pelican Scrub.
Yes, well, I was going to explain that. When my grandfather drew the block down there, a few years later, he died down there at Weewar on the block, and Granny Brown come back here, and then naturally, when the people, well, because the old man was a fairly big drinker, the girls left home pretty quick, I think, you know, like they do, and when they left home, they come back up here, and Queenie come back here when she was 16 or 17, I'm not sure that. And I built, she got married here, and I built a house next door, and he got a patch of apple down there at Bald Hill.
Who'd she marry?
She married Roy Allport, a New Zealander, not a Maori, but a New Zealander. Yeah. And
what year would that be? They got the patch of opal. Roughly.
24.
1924.
Oh, that's when, it must have been that year, because it was 24 when they built that house.
Yeah, and whereabouts was the house built?
There, the
right
one
alongside of you here.
There.
Yeah, this house there. Yeah. That's right. I've got the picture now.
Yeah.
Very good. When did you come back, Bob?
Yeah, well, I come, when I was 13 and a half, I left school and come up to Gundabluey for a winter with a rabbit trapper. And when we finished the season's trapping, I come here for a while to see me.
So that'd be about 1928.
Yeah, about 27 I come in.
27, yeah.
And to see my sister, and I stopped here for a while. And I got a bike when I was here. Oh, we fixed the bike up because everybody was bike riders and that. And I stopped here for somewhere about a year or something, and went back home.
Now, while you was here for that year, it's very important, Bob. Did you do any mining?
Yeah.
Okay, now who did you mine with when you first come back?
Well, most of the mining I did that time was with my uncle.
Which uncle? What's his name?
Uncle Bob. Not George Bowles. George Bowles was my cousin. Georgie Bowles' father.
Yeah.
He was married to Aunt Nell Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack.
Yeah, Jack Bowles. That's
Jackie
it.
Bowles, yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, you mined most of the time with Jack Bowles for that 1 year. Now, where did you mine? Tell us some of the fields you mined.
No, well, we had a look at most places, but he was getting a bit of apple on the clear line, as I said, and that's where I spent most of the time with him there. But it was here then that we weren't doing too good, and it was, in the early 30s, it was a bad time, and well, 29 was
Depression.
No, that was the beginning of the depression. In 28, I got a £210 a mile to do some fencing, and in 32 I did the same sort of fence for £30 a mile.
Oh my.
That's how much it dropped, you know.
Yeah.
And then somewhere about 32 I left here again. And it was that time I travelled down south to Tumut and all them places. I went running around the goldfields actually.
Yeah.
But most of the time I had to take jobs to keep me going. I worked on dairy farms and things like that.
Yeah. What I want to do, I hope you don't mind me doing this, Bob, because you're such a wealth of information. We're not going to get what we want in the one sitting, so if you don't mind, there'll probably be a number of sittings over a period of time. But what I want is, to you it may not seem very important, but that 12 months that you come back here in 1927 and you work with Jackie Bowles up on the cleared line, who else was working on the cleared line at the time? What other miners can you remember there? Was Austin's there or any of those people?
Yeah, some of them were. Well, there was my family had a couple of the claims there on it, and but I can't. That's a good while ago, and I can't really remember because I didn't stop here that long enough. I wasn't that well known to them. I can't really remember many of the people here, only my relations, you know.
That's fair enough. Now, that's fair enough. During that period, of course, you would have seen somebody must have got an exceptional stone in 1927 while you was here during that period.
I think that's when I seen the light of the world.
The light of the world, 1928.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Growling.
Yeah.
Did you know Kurt Stevens and his mate who?
Yeah, not so well. I knew of them, you know.
Yeah. How did you hear the story as it happened, Bob?
The light of the world.
Yeah. How did the rumours go around Lightning Ridge how it was found?
Yes, I think I shouldn't have said that. The hopeful first one I saw was the Flame Queen. Not
yeah, Hackett and Phillips.
Yeah. With the light of the world.
Yes.
The Flame Queen, yeah.
Flame Queen.
But I did see the light of the world too.
Okay, now Phillips Stone, you've seen that. Can you describe it still after all these years?
No, I think of it as a stone about some size top on, you know?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
But not so much, but I think it had... I can't think of the other colour that's looked for in stones. It's sort of red, but not red, you know?
Yeah. Orangey type.
Yeah.
Bronzy colours.
Yeah, bronze.
Bronzy colours, bronzy red.
Well, it was very, that was nearly, at the right angle, it was a predominant colour, you know?
Yeah. In fact, digressing a little, only last week I photographed a 80 carat one, a magnificent bronze, orange, gold stone.
Yeah.
Beautiful stone. Symmetrical and beautiful dome on it. Probably one of, in the top 3 bronze orange I've seen in my life. Yeah,
Yeah.
magnificent stuff. Anyway, so you went away chasing all sorts of work.
Yeah.
When did you come back then, Bob?
Well, I went down back. My people had left pre-war and shifted over to Wobbegard.
Yeah.
And wherever my father went, he put in for blocks of land, you know?
Yeah.
And he managed to drink himself out of them pretty quickly all the time. So we actually finished up from one block to another, you know? Because the first block of land, I know he must have done not long after he got married. It was down at Condoblin.
Yeah.
He drew a block, but it was very hard to get the good country back off the big squatters then.
Yeah, sure.
So most of the country wasn't worthwhile going on.
Yeah.
And that's how they battled. But that's what happened. But even then, he finished up drawing a 15-acre block of ground along the creek for market gardening, you know.
Yeah.
What's the name? And those people did better there than anywhere else because you only got a little bit of ground and you had to make the best use of it, you know.
Yeah.
So if you were good enough to make a market garden, you could live.
Yeah.
And one thing, you had plenty to eat, even if it was only spuds and turnips.
Well, nothing like good vegetables. Now listen, I'm going to take you back to 1927 again. Was you here in 27 when the pub burnt down?
No.
It was burnt before you come, was it, and rebuilt, or what?
Yes, it was burned before I come because I worked there not long afterwards. We tried to make the cellar a bit bigger.
Yeah.
And I dug it back to the stumps that were burned off, you know?
Yeah.
We did increase it by about 15 foot or something.
Yeah. And who was running the pub then? Can you remember?
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't. We were a bit because our father was much of a drunk. We didn't have much time for pubs until we'd give up and got thirsty ourselves.
Yes, that's very good, mate. Very good. The okay, so you're away. You come back to Lightning Ridge. What year did you come back, Bob?
I come. Wait a minute. I come back to when my father died in '34. I come back to the pilgrimage to Wobbegard. And when I got back to Wobbegard, my sister Queen had come and picked Mum up and brought her up here. And that's when they built this granny flat for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I come. Yes, I'd come back up. I come back in '34 there, and it was after that I come up by coach and come here with a horse mail, you know.
Yeah.
What's name? And I stopped here for 34 about. Oh, I worked around. I was digging most of the time, but when I'd go broke, I used to go. I had two or three squatters or farmers.
Yeah.
Wheat farmers. I used to go to Narrabri at the sowing and the reaping times. I had a job there every year.
Yeah. Now, I recall I was talking to you once down in the club some years ago, and I asked you about an opalized skull that was found in 1929 at Lightning Ridge. Now, I can understand why you didn't know anything about it because you wasn't here.
Yeah.
But you did point out to me about a hand that was found by somebody, a potch. It was potch, of course, and it was shown to the policeman. The policeman said, "Go and bury that." What was that now?
Yeah, no, it wasn't an opalized hand. It was the bones of a man's hand.
All right, the bones of a man's hand, right?
Yeah, and I know a good bit more about it now than I did then. But the policeman wanted me to get rid of it because it looked like giving enough trouble to find out whose hand it was. Mm-hmm. But I believed it was the hand that we used to call him the drunken soldier. He was a First War soldier, And he used to, when he was drunk, he used to do about turns and march and again, you know. But he wasn't a bad bloke, and we all reckoned he left the country, but I think he must have died somewhere up there and the pigs pulled him to pieces.
Oh, they didn't find it in the mine at all?
They found it not in the mine, they found it in an old mine.
In an old mine?
When they dug it out.
Yeah, yeah, in the stone dirt.
In the Molyneux, yeah.
In the Molyneux?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if he was in the Molyneux, somebody must have buried him.
No, or the pigs might have dragged his arm into a hole.
Yeah, yeah.
And pulled him to pieces, because there's been a few blokes found and here at times, and if they were found in this scrub, it was lucky that the pigs hadn't pulled them to pieces.
What year, Bob?
Oh.
I think you told me 35, but I can't be sure.
It must have been 35, because it was 35. I come back in 34.
Yeah.
And I worked here, and then from 35 on we weren't getting much help. And twice a year I used to go to the squatters for planting and reaping, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Now, was you here? You wasn't here when the Pandora was found, neither, were you?
No.
No. Did you ever see that stone?
No.
You only heard the stories.
Yeah.
You only heard the stories, yes. Bob, now you have done a bit of mining. Did you ever find a reasonable patch of opal, you and your partners?
Oh, yes, me and Jack Lestrange.
When? What year, roughly?
Oh, well, that must have been in 36 or 37, something like that.
Okay, what field, before we go on with it?
It was at the 3 Mile, on the deep ground at the 3 Mile.
On top of the hill?
Yeah, on top of the hill.
Right.
Right on top of the hill.
Up on Lunatic Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Lunatic. Okay, you and Lestrange. Can you tell us now, before we get into it, what level were you on?
We were on the second level, they called it. There was only about two levels on it, and that'd be about 70 foot.
Yeah.
It was about a 70-foot level, you know.
Yeah. Okay, you sunk tell us about sinking the hole. You sunk it yourself?
Yeah, we sunk it ourselves, yeah. And because it was good sinking, I think we sunk it in about 3 weeks.
That's good going.
Yeah, it was good sinking.
Did you use a bit of blasting powder?
No, we didn't. I don't remember using blaster powder in it at all. It was on the top of the hill. It was sort of settled country, and it was clean sandstone. And then you got a clean level and clean sandstone again. And
did you bottom on it?
No. We drove we drove in 3 directions, and in the 3rd direction, we found. I forget now. We found it was a pocket. I saw a pocket of stone.
Now, how big, Bob?
Couple
of foot across or more?
No, it was a little round drop. It looked as if it had fell down like that. It was that they were hanging all together, the knobbies, you know.
What, on the roof or down below?
Yeah, on the roof.
Yeah.
And I forget what I know we sold. The biggest stone we sold is what's the name, and we got.
What's the name?
Francis.
Who?
Francis.
Francis. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Papa Francis.
Yeah, Papa Francis.
Yeah.
Because we wanted.
And now,
we had wanted 50 pound foot, and they wanted to give us 40, and we sold it to him for 45 pounds. We talked to see what we did.
Now describe the stone to us, Bob, please. How big, roughly?
It was somewhere about not big as not as big as the thumb. It was about 9.5 carats, I think.
Yeah.
But we
red.
Yes. It wasn't. It wasn't a miraculous stone, but we put a good bit more on it than we did. It wasn't the best stone we found. We found one long while afterwards up when we sold it to Harry Underwood. But that was the best stone we found, and we sold it for 50 pounds.
Yeah. 45 pounds. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, that's we were arguing the toss, and I think we tossed to see whether we.
Yeah. Whether you would.
Yeah.
How many other stones do you think was in the pocket?
I can't remember, but I know we took it to Sydney, and we sold it around town. And
Who was buying in Sydney those days?
there was the jewellers, Angus and Coote, and we took this down to Angus and Coote because he was nearest to the right way in George Street, you know, opposite the right way. And we went in there, but of course, by the time we left Angus and Coote's, everybody else knew we were in town with a party.
Hey, listen, was old Ted Murphy still alive then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you ever do any business with him?
Yes, Ted Murphy's. Yeah. Yes, we sold him bits of stones and pots and colour and things like that here, but we mostly, when we got that $50, that was enough money for me and my mate to go to Sydney.
Yeah, have a
and
time.
take out the rest of the parcel, yeah. It was the second time I went to Sydney. I went to Sydney when they opened the bridge. But that's only because I was in Newcastle and I went down and I see what's the name, the bloke that cut
the Groot?
Yeah, the Groot, is it?
The Groot, yeah.
I seen him.
Did you actually see him race with the horse?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't see him cut the rope, but I seen him riding past me going down to do that job. Yeah. But anyway, that's another story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's so. I forget though. But I think we got 100. We tried for good, but we didn't get as much as we expected for the parcel. I forget how much money, but of course I think we got £1,200 or something for the parcel we took down.
Yeah.
And of course that was there was only me and what's the name, my mate then was what was his name? Jack Lestrange.
Yeah, Lestrange, yeah.
Lestrange, Lestrange, yeah.
Lestrange, that was a fair bit of money those days, Bob.
Oh yes, we reckon we were rich, of course.
Yeah, I reckon you might have been, mate. Now, you said later on you got a better stone in that claim.
Yeah.
How big was it? A big stone or a small stone?
No, it was just the first. It was the first stone that we think. I forget we got it was bought the biggest price of any stone. We sold it down at Underwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think.
Yeah, he owned the property down there.
Yeah, it wasn't that long after he drew the property.
Yeah.
But we got that up on the cleared line too.
You got that on the cleared line.
Cleaning one of the old holes out, you know.
Yeah.
I picked it out of the puddler, you know.
Yeah.
And it was floating around the top.
Yeah. Very good. The other thing, look, during the period when you was here in the 30s, were they still sinking at $1 a foot, given mine is so much money to sink?
Yes, I sunk a few hours at that. It was so much a foot to sink and so much a foot to drive. I forget what it was, but we used to, the policeman was here, he wouldn't go down now. We used to go down now, and he used to drop the tape down and measure it, and we used to pull the tape down.
So the policeman was responsible for paying you or measuring?
Yeah, for proving that you had sunk the hole that day.
Yeah, he was the proof. So you used to get hold of the tape and pull it down?
Yeah. Not too much, because he'd wake up if you pulled it too right. But he'd get a few more feet. Yeah. And I think we get what was the pay, but it was a reasonable amount of payment, you know.
Yeah.
And but I only remember doing that. I dropped it with 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's when we were prospecting at the 7 Mile first.
Oh yes, yeah. 7 Mile, eh? Yeah. Nobody seemed to ever found a good patch at the 7 Mile, have they?
Oh well, there was a couple of 7 Miles, but the two brothers, they got down a patch there. What? No, I got a few stones. I forget who was working them, But one of the two brothers, the second claim from the Shallow, they got the only reasonable patch open there. It was a fair bit. There were two brothers, and they're pretty well known. They lived up.
Wasn't the Kites?
Eh?
Wasn't the Kite brother?
Oh, no, I knew them, the Kites, but they'd been here for a fair while anyway.
Yeah.
But they lived up across the road from about where the first water tank was up there. You know?
Oh yes, yeah, up towards the bull bars.
Yeah.
Now up towards the isn't that towards the?
Well, I know them as well as myself. They would give us a good bit of trouble here when we first started the club, because they were both members, my board members, you know. And
they weren't Yugoslav fellas?
No, they were Australian. I think they were. One was a Shearer. I think they must have been but you'd know them as well as I know them.
Yeah, so just trying to pick
if I could think of it.
Yeah.
There are two brothers, and they built the house where what's the name of the squatter bloke I always drank with him. He drew they bought Harry Underwood's property.
Dawson.
Eh?
Dawson. Did they buy that?
Dawson's?
No, they bought. They got that outward. Now this bloke bought it.
In between Dawson and Underwood.
Yeah.
No.
He bought it off Underwood. This bloke. Yeah.
No, I couldn't help you with that one because that was before my day.
Yeah.
It was before my day here.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, that's coming along quite good, mate.
Yeah.
The what I would like to ask you a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, is something about John Molyneux. Was he your nephew?
Yeah.
Was he your nephew? Could you tell me how he come here to the field and the circumstances? How John, he wasn't born here, was he?
No, he was born at Young.
At Young?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where Arthur left here when he was 17 or 18. Arthur was reared.
That's his father?
Yeah, that's his father. He was reared by Grandmother Brown.
Yeah.
When he was born, he had a twin sister. And he was about 8 years old, and he was born in 1906 or 7, I think.
Yeah.
But and that was when they drew the block. When they drew the block, they left Arthur here and took his twin sister with them. But I don't remember. She died at 5 years old, and that'd be about a year before I was born.
Yeah.
She died. They said from eating wild green peaches or something, you know. But I always had it in my head that she died from eating mushroom.
Yeah.
Wild mushroom.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was John's father. But what I want to try and build a picture up about John himself coming here to Lightning Ridge.
Yeah, well, John, Arthur, that'd be better for me to tell you when Arthur come here.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's nice.
Yeah, we'll watch the time.
Yeah.
When you're ready, we'll finish and we'll have another.
Yeah, well, when my father died, and I come back here. I come here, and I was here all through the 30s, but Arthur come here from down there. I think they come here from down there to try and dodge the corner.
Oh, yes.
About that time, you know.
Yes.
Shifted away because there was a lot of men at Young, and always were a lot of men. It was still a reasonable gold field in those days, even, you know. There was plenty of the gullies where, we made a living in the gullies for 3 or 4 years. But he come up here because he come up here and he lived, next door to next to Wollongullah. He lived there for a good while. And he sort of followed me to the house I moved out of, he moved into, until he finished up getting possession of the old...
DNA?
B&A, yeah.
Yeah.
Then. But that's how he come here, and he.
What year do you have got any ideas?
It must have been 37,
Yeah.
37 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Somewhere toward no, it must have been after that. It must have been during the war.
Yeah.
He came up here sort of to dodge it,
Yeah.
and then he decided he was out on me, and when he joined up so he wouldn't get called up a bit before. So the war must have been on when he joined up, because I tried to join up. As I told you, I'll tell you this yarn now. We were going to taking Moby Sheep to Keelandie, near Narrabri, and on the road we got into trouble with a squatter. I won't tell you his name because he
Why not? Can't
well, you know, because he's well known.
Well, what matters?
Yeah.
What matters? Come on, tell
No, I won't tell you his name.
this.
But I'll tell you what happened. I went, you're supposed to put a notice in, give a notice to the squatter that you're coming onto his property.
Yeah.
And I rode the day before from, what's the name, and put the letter in his mailbox. And then I went on to the place, and it was the day before the war broke out that I done that. And when I got onto his place, it had been raining, and I took the sheep out of the black ground up onto the red country, and the bit of red ground near his house is where he used to train his horses. And he abused me because I was cutting the ground up with the sheep, you know. And he said, you should be at the war. And it had only been declared the day before. But I told him, I said, I'll be there and back before you go, and I was too.
Yeah.
But, you know, no need to say any more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough, Bob. Okay, we'll just have a spell for a moment.
I don't know what they were, brothers, no. And you know them, he know them as well as I know myself. But they were they were both on the border for years, on the border of the club.
Not Kennedy.
No, Kennedy, no, not even, but I'm trying to tell you where they live. They built the place and they got me to...
Anyway, it'll come back next time. Don't worry about it.
And
So what we'll do now, mate, is just to get the brain just slipping over a little bit. What we'll do now, we'll change the subject a little bit, and we'll stay with Opal a bit, right? And then we'll come back to people and personalities later. It won't hurt to mix it up. It gives us our mental brain a bit of a change. Okay, now I'm going to ask you. And don't rush into this. In fact, you can tell me a number of them if you like. But what's the best opal you can remember ever seeing coming out the mines here at Lightning Ridge? And who had it?
No, well, I think I said the Flame Queen.
The Flame Queen.
Yeah. That was from the Bald Hill.
Yeah, from Bald Hill. Yeah, Phillips. Yeah.
And I've seen a couple more. I've seen a couple of more pretty good stones. What they call snowy brown stone.
Which one was that?
I don't know the name, but that's what we called it in the old days. It was snowy brown stone, and it was got at the Deep 4 Mile. It did have some sort of name.
Yeah.
And I think to remember seeing the Red Admiral.
Yes. Now, the Red Admiral, that was up on the cleared line, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The cleared line.
Yeah.
And you actually seen it?
Yeah.
She'd be a crackerjack to see.
Yeah. It had more red than most of them stones. It was a funny place, that cleared line. I've seen Opal in a different position. We used to call them a lot of little nobbies. We used to call them shirt button nobbies.
Yeah.
They were the biggest shirt button.
Yeah, pea nobbies.
Not pea nobbies, no.
Yeah.
Little flat nobbies with a round face.
Yeah.
And they were stuck to the bottom of the steel band, and you used to have to cut them off with a chisel. So you had to keep back off them so you didn't snap them and chisel them out, and the steel band about that thick and very hard.
Ooh.
And they were stuck on the bottom of it. And they were like, hardly any of them were bigger than shirt buttons. But I made a lot of good pairs and things out of them because they were all the same.
Beautiful. Now, this is going to be a curly one. The Red Admiral,
Yeah.
what time, what period, what year, who got it?
Well, I think it was Uncle Jack Bowles.
Uncle Jack Bowles.
No, either he got it or it was found on his claim afterwards, I think.
Yeah.
But it had come about in the middle of the cleared line.
Yeah, and when was that, before or after the big war? When was it?
It was before. No, I can't place what time it was. No, I wouldn't know.
And out of that same claim, is it true that the Black Prince, the Flamingo and the Pride of Australia came?
No, well, I didn't know, but there was a lot of good stones found it because it was the stone that we sold to Harry Underwood. I forget how much it was, but we got our price a carat, paid per carat at that time for it. You know?
Up to that time.
Yeah.
Up to that time, ever paid for a stone at Lightning Ridge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Now, who can you remember getting the biggest patch of opal at Lightning Ridge? The biggest patch. Not in recent years at the Cookham and that, but we're talking about yesteryear.
Oh. Well, there was a couple of the biggest patches. A couple of biggest patches I know. One was found at fairly shallow ground, at the 6 or 7 foot ground, at the workings closest to where the aeroplanes land.
Oh yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's up at the Shallow Nobbies.
Yeah, at Nobby.
Yeah.
At Nobby.
Yeah, but towards the end there, in the Shallow Nobby area.
That was, and the other, the next biggest one was at Potts Point.
Potts Point.
Debbie Reynolds.
Who? Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie.
Yeah.
Can
The biggest patch, not the best patch, but the biggest.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that man? I've never heard of him before.
Now, it wasn't the patch. It wasn't the best patch, I believe. With the patches, there was a couple of pockets round near him.
Yeah,
but it was the biggest lot of opal. It was big half-seam stuff, you know. And there were a lot of stones about that thick. There was a lot of them. It was a long...
What, grey opal?
Yeah, inclination to be grey.
Yeah.
And not real red.
Yeah.
Because grey never shows red.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't black opal, but I think it was the biggest patch of opal that they've ever got.
Have
And
you any
I
idea
think
of
it
the
was
year?
I think there might have been a tub and a half.
Of opal.
Yeah. All better than pot and colour, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a long one to be this, and it was about a couple of climbs down from the good climb, you know, on Potts Point.
Yeah. What year?
Oh, God. Well, that was here when I come back. It must have been in the early 30s.
In the early, let's say 31.
Yeah. Because I can remember I was crooked on Deafy because he used to make his wife. He lived about where the beginning of the race course is, you know. Where the beginning is now, because the race course was a mile inside, but they cut the back end off of it and made it a half-mile track. But he lived up about, where could I say, give him, down from Potts Point, closest to the closest to the zone up. Anyway, it was about where they start the races now.
Yeah, that's where he lived.
And he used to live there, and from where we were living at the time, I don't know what it was, I could hear his wife's voice from here, reading the paper out because he was deaf.
Well, she had a voice like Larry Reynolds, did she?
You see, she had to have a voice, and I was always cooking on him for a day, you know, mate, because, Queen read The Girl, didn't Frances Reynolds, my sister, she read it. But I can remember when I was a kid, I complained to Mum about Reynolds. I said, someone ought to go up and knock him down.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen, who got the big patch, the good patch, I should say, or the good claim on Potts Point?
Yeah.
Who got that? Do you know?
Well, John Molyneux.
John Molyneux.
Yeah.
Italy got the good.
Yeah, on Potts Point.
Point, yeah.
Yeah. No, not Point. No, we got the good one up on the Dry Rush.
On the Dry Rush, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'll get to that another time.
Yeah.
Do you know who got the good one at Potts Point?
No, it was fairly early Potts Point.
Yeah. Now listen, we're talking about patches. Did old Boodle tell you anything about the claim that he was involved with his mate over at the New Chums in 1907? Did he ever tell you anything about that?
No, Boodle, no. Boodle he had a lot of funny stories he told.
Oh, I know that. I know that.
But I didn't. But I don't. I shouldn't. I knew all the names and all the good marks, but they've gone from my mind now.
Yeah.
And Potts Point, you know, I remember a few blokes and what they got out because I know that the best patch apple that Roy Allport got, he got down there. Oh, I can't even think of the name, but it was further on, the furthest patch apple towards what's the name's property? Bill O'Brien's property over there.
Oh, yeah.
Timmins' property.
Yeah, like down there, Bill de Boer's area.
Yeah, down below that, down near the gate.
Oh, down near the gate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you go in, just up above the gate.
Just up above the gate, yeah. So he got a big patch there?
He got the patch that allowed him to build that house, and that must have been in 24.
Yeah, 1924.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, now this is one man that you would have known a lot about. We might finish up with this today. He's also named Reynolds Larry.
Larry Reynolds. Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. He was a bit of a rogue, Larry, but I liked him. But he was a bit of a funny bloke. Yeah.
Okay. Now look. When did Larry come back here the second time, or was it the second time when he came here? He wasn't here all the time.
No, he wasn't. He had a bit of a way of ducking off, you know. He'd go somewhere and come back. I think he come back a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, but I can't, some of those things I can't remember them now, you know.
Well, listen, did you ever see the fireball, the stone he brought off the Reese and his mate? Did you ever see that?
No, I heard of it. I never seen it.
You never seen it?
No,
you only heard of it, right?
Lately, the only stones I ever seen was, I think, was snowy, what they call snowy brown stone, they used to call it. And
Yeah.
but he got it, I think it was snowy brown claim, I guess. It was in the deep brown.
Yeah, at the 4 Mile.
Yeah.
Down at the 4 Mile.
Yeah.
Okay, Larry never ever showed you all the good stones he carried in the belt around his belly, you know?
Oh, yeah. Crutch bagging, we used to call it.
Crutch bagging.
Yeah, that's what they call it. That was the name was given out. It was given by the prisoners of war when Japanese prisoners, because that's all they had around them. And if you wanted to plant anything, you had to plant it there.
There, yeah.
But it got called crutch bagging here. Yeah.
Now, Larry said to me once that he'd sold opal to Jackie Kennedy. Did he ever say anything to you about that? The president's wife?
Yes, I think it was one of his stories, but he said a lot of things to people, you know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just thought
Yeah.
I'd just...
Yes, but he did yell out there because my brother Jack, that had he finished up, he had the pub at Waywar. He must have been here when he was a boy.
Yeah.
But he set himself out from ever since I could remember. He said, "I'm going to be rich."
Yeah.
And he was in the finish, but he did it himself. He finished up with a pub and owned about 6 houses in Waywar, and he bought half a bull cow then afterwards. But it was more with his own. I think he opened he got a bit of property and had a few cattle, and he opened a butcher shop because he didn't have to buy cattle; he was growing them, and that was his start off. And he did all those things deliberately to further himself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long before you were around the big pub and things like that.
Yeah.
What's happens to people? Well, he'd set his mind on it, because I can remember him and I, we were the first of the crossword puzzle doers.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember crossword puzzles before the 20s.
Yeah.
And I can remember we used to sit down and do these mad puzzles even then.
Jack was the one that went to America and saw the stones, didn't he?
Yes, he saw most of and some. The thing about Jack, he was here in the big rush times, and he's seen most of those good stones. I never come here till, you know.
Yeah.
So he was born in 1904, and I was born in 1913.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now listen, now, during the periods that you come and went from this place, did you ever personally meet Charlie Nettleton?
Yes, I can remember. I can remember seeing Charlie Nettleton doing somewhere, still riding the bike. He was then. Yeah. But I can't remember the issue. But he must have been here at the first part of the time. Once, because, well, as I said, I was 13 and a half, I think, when I come here first.
Was he still around in 1927? If you remember?
Yes, I think he was still here then, or come back here or something. Yeah, because they were talking, you know, they were doing arguing the toss when they were renaming the streets and that, Nettleton Drive and all them.
Yeah. Okay, now. We'll definitely finish on this one because you have to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to start on the dry rush. Tell me what year the dry rush started, when Johnny got the patch.
Oh, Lord. It must have been 52, 53. It must have been in the late 50s, I think.
Yeah, the late 50s.
Yeah.
The late 50s, just before
because
I came here.
somewhere about when the money changed, you know, it was 56, wasn't it?
Well, that was 66, yeah. Now the dry rush had finished when I come here, and I come here in 61, 62.
Yeah, but he got the patch at the dry rush. The dry rush was finished, and he went back and got a patch there.
Yes.
He just went somewhere where someone hadn't went.
Yeah.
And
that could be about 66.
Yeah. And I think he got his patches, and then he lived up onto the, what's the name? He got a couple of patches, one after the other. That's what set him off. And he also won a lottery.
Yes, I didn't know that. He won the lottery, did he?
About
the same period.
Yeah, somewhere about the same period. When he won, he didn't win it. He always would take lottery tickets. He's a bit like me.
Yeah.
I buy the same amount. When Mum and I knocked off smoking, we decided to spend the money we just spend on lottery tickets.
Yeah.
And I still do.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, Bob, now look, mate, it's 5 minutes to 10. We know you've got to go.
I just wanted to ask, when John Molyneux took over the pub lease, could that have had something to do with his find, his opal find, when he took over?
Oh, yes, he bought it. Well, Timmy And Timmy Regan, my mate, Timmy Regan and I come back after we'd been to Cooper Pedy.
Yeah.
And we come back here, and Timmy, Timmy and John, Timmy put money into the pub too. Timmy and John put money in the pub, but Timmy did it with the idea that he bought a motor car, and he run the taxis there. And he was a taxi driver until he got shot here. Because I can remember that was the quickest ride I ever had into Walgett when he got shot.
That was about 1958, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was only a sort of a silly stunt, and I can't understand what's the name doing it, because he was one of the best, recognised in the army as one of the best of the commando type soldiers, you know. He knew all the unarmed combatant things, but he grabbed the bloke's rifle when he aimed it at him and pulled it like this, and that's how he got shot. And I would have thought he didn't know better. If he grabbed it, he would have pushed it. Yeah, but that's exactly how he got a shot. He was playing tennis up at the tennis club, and this bloke was half drunk at the pub, and he came up and drove up in his motor car, or drove up in a motor car, and I wanted me to take him to Walgett in a taxi. No, someone brought him up. And Timmy said, all right, when I finish this set. And he said, no, now. And Timmy said, I can't do it now, so this bloke grabbed the rifle and brought him to him. And that's how he got shot. But I remember Timmy's girl, we had him in the back of my car. I had a Chev, one of a fairly good Chev, and I think I did Walgett in about 37 minutes. So
On a dirt road?
Yeah, mate. I can still remember it. Yeah. And she's, what's her name, sitting in the back holding on, what's her name, Dawson girl. That was his girlfriend. Yeah. She's nursing him in the back and saying, hurry up, Bob, it's getting worse.
Which girl was that?
Norma.
Norma, yeah.
Okay, Bob, well, thank you very much for that. The one thing I was going to ask you, what year did you go to Cooper Pedy?
We went in 47.
But after the strike at the 6 Mile?
We went after we come out. I got out in 46. We went not long after we. I got out in 1946, and Timmy Regan got out at the same time.
How long did you go to Cooper Pedy?
And we went to Cooper Pedy, and I was there at Cooper Pedy, so we must have went to Cooper Pedy in 47, because I left there in 52, and that's 5 years. Yeah. And Timmy and I went there, and we got a reasonable patch opal, not enough to make a fortune, but it give us enough money to start buying opal. And we bought, and when I come back here, I used to go back there over there and buy opal for Teddy for cotton, you know, for a good while. Yeah. And that's how we kept, we made money for a good while in partnership.
It's always the opal buying that makes the money, isn't it? Opal buyers always make all the money.
Yeah, well, you either make a lot of money, love, or you go broke.
Good on you. Good on you.